It's the divorce episode, and and we're talking to two guys whose parents are both divorced, and also Johnny himself actually being divorced as well.
Oh yeah, that's true.
A genuine divorcee right here on the show. So I hope I don't, we're going to, well, let me put it this way. We're going to delve deep. So I hope you're willing to reveal a lot about yourself in this episode, Johnny.
So this was like some kind of trap in order for me to expose secrets, family secrets.
I would never do that to you. That would be in poor taste. But we can talk about these movies, that's for sure. Directed by the infamous Michael Winner of Death Wish 1, 2, and 3 fame. What else did Michael Winner direct other than Scream for Help?
I'm like blanking.
Okay, it doesn't matter. So anyways, we're talking about Scream for Help today. Scream for Help is a film that I had no idea existed at all, which is a little wild because it was written by Tom Holland, which is the guy who wrote, a couple of my favorite films, the first Child's Play, and also Fright Night, which I think is everyone loves Fright Night. Who doesn't love Fright Night? But yeah, he wrote this film called Scream for Help, and it's a British production, and it's pretty fucking entertaining for about half of it, and then it just turns into something that I get completely confused by, and then I just my attention sort of level just kind of plummets, and then by the end of it I'm just kind of like okay, well I guess that's what happened.
It's interesting because I feel like that is sort of that was my feeling. Like I like the whole Nancy Drew aspect. I like that type of story of like a kid trying to solve some kind of serious crime. And it actually reminded me of not to plug myself, but it reminded me of the Who Raped My Horse, because that kind of like that I mean, the whole Nancy Drew thing was what I was kind of riffing off of in that. So I liked that, and then once that in the film, like once that the sort of sleuthing ends and it becomes a siege film of a home invasion siege situation. Yeah, it definitely kind of like takes a big nosedive.
Oh God, yeah.
Like I was kind of confused as like what was going on, and earlier we were talking about like the motivations of characters, and the motivation of like why people are doing things kind of gets a little muddy, and he sort of repeats situations it just kind of felt like he was like treading as much water as he could to make an extra 30 minutes, right, to flesh out the 90-minute film. I would have liked to have seen more with like the girl trying to like, because I mean there's also a lot of the Hitchcock film Shadow of a Doubt in this too, of like a young girl who is convinced that her uncle, played by Joseph Cotton, is some kind of murderer or criminal or something, and she's trying to uncover him, and no one will believe her. So it's got that, or like remember I told you to watch that movie The Snorkel?
Yeah, I saw that.
So The Snorkel has that too, of like a kid like this guy's a killer, and nobody believes her. She's got to like try to prove that he's the killer. So I like those types of like all that sort of like kids sleuthing. But yeah, once that goes away, it kind of takes a little bit of a nosedive.
Well, the funnest parts of that kind of setup for me are the face-to-face encounters that happen between the girl and the guy and the killer,
Oh, yeah.
the would-be killer, like where
Yeah,
he's just kind of like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, the sort of like cat and mouse game that they're playing is that's the fun of the film. Like, and when he walks in on her like fucking the kid, and it's like, oh well, what do we have here? Like suddenly he's got some information on her that might be of use to him, and but yeah, that whole kind of like cat and mouse between the stepfather and the kid, that's the fun part of the film. Yeah,
absolutely. This film is like one of the things that, you go into this film blind, as I did, and the first thing you're going to notice is the weird like
clothes.
Like the weird tone of the whole thing. First of all, it's like it starts out with like her kind of sitting in a park or on a beach or something, and it's narration, and it's like, "Hi, my name's, whatever her fucking name is. My name is fucking Nancy Drew, and I'm 17 years old, and my mother is at risk of being killed by my stepfather." And then and you're like, okay, and then all of a sudden this big swell of like almost like dated. What's the guy's name? Pino Donaggio sort of style score comes in, like swells in, and it's like this big like.
The Led Zeppelin guy. What's his name?
It's John Paul Jones.
Yeah, he's like the bassist for Led Zeppelin or something.
Yeah, something like that. He's involved in Led Zeppelin.
You fucking hate Led Zeppelin. I can't believe it.
I don't hate Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin is just, it's the same thing for me as like, I don't know, Elvis or the Beatles. It's just stuff that exists, and you listen to it and it's like, yep, that's what that is. But it doesn't really, it's, what it is? Because it gets used so often in like commercials and stuff that it's just like, it's just part of the wallpaper of culture. It's not. It doesn't actually feel like real music to me anymore. It just feels like stuff. That
right, but you like. I guess you know what Led Zeppelin is, and like.
Oh, absolutely.
Like Jimmy Page was in it.
Yeah, I do.
Robert Plant.
Yep.
And John Paul Jones as well.
Sure. Yeah, I do know what Led Zeppelin is, and I've listened to their albums in full. Before. And when I was in high school, this is, you have friends who are like into classic rock exclusively. Also, when you do day labor, this is just what's on the radio.
Sure.
It's not something that I get too excited about.
But the music is very, it's not very Led Zeppelin at all. It's
absolutely not.
It almost feels bigger than what the movie is.
Yeah, that's what's striking.
It's like big band music or something.
No, it's like I said, it's sort of like this very like super melodramatic. Like I said before, like almost like a riff on Pino Donaggio, sort of Brian De Palma score. Like a what's the one? Dress to Kill, like a Dress to Kill soundtrack. But it's like it's distracting, as to how kind of big and sort of almost silly it makes the movie feel, and also like. This is maybe not a lot of people are going to notice this if I didn't point it out, but just the way that the interior of the house is lit, everything is just so fucking bright, and it feels like a TV show or something. Like if the first chunk of it, or not the first chunk of it, but when you're first introduced to it, you're kind of like, this movie feels weird. This movie feels like a TV show, but also it has it's obviously shot on film, and it's been produced in a particular way, so it feels like a film, but it has just like the lighting of
and there's nudity drama in it, so it's definitely not a TV movie.
Yeah, you see, there's right out of the gates, you get the Michael Winner signature, nudity scene, the shameless nudity scene, where you get to see what's her name? Her name is Lolita Lore.
Right.
And she's got nice big pair of tits that you get to see as the first piece of nudity in the film. So thank God for Michael Winner being the pervert that he is. Now, as you go forward in the film, like, I mean, it becomes completely outlandish. Like the stuff he's doing, he's turning on the gas, or he's booby trapping the electrical box so that like the mother will accidentally electrocute herself. It electrocutes a fucking electrician who comes to fix the box that they call instead. He's fucking turning off the pilot light in the hot water heater so that the house explodes with a light switch that he's rigged to create a spark. He cuts the fucking, he pulls a spring out of the carburetor of the car so that when the gas pedal is depressed, the pedal stays down. It doesn't come back up again.
Right.
He does all sorts of just wacky shit, and the daughter has to endure all of this stuff. And then you get introduced to these two other characters who are in on the plot to kill the mother. They're trying to kill the mother, by the way, because she's very rich and her family, like, kind of, quote unquote, owns the town. Like you notice that there's like dealerships that have the last name of the mom and stuff, and like she's pretty dug into the town, her family, and then there's these two people. There's this fucking woman that the killer dad is fucking, and then he's married to this dude who is also
she first is sort of established that the stepfather is having some sort of sexual relationship with this sort of sexy lady on the other side of the tracks. Yeah. And at first she's living with this guy who is introduced as her brother.
Right.
But then it comes to it then is revealed that it's not her brother, it's her husband, and they're playing the stepfather because they want to they want the mother killed, so then the stepfather gets the money, and then they're going to take the money from the stepfather.
Sure. And this is the biggest problem with the movie, I think, is just having that whole thing going on. Because I don't know about you, but like I would have preferred much more that the film was just about the stepfather trying to kill this fucking mother.
Right, because I feel like once the stepfather is kind of reduced to a little bit of a stooge, it definitely takes the wind out of the movie. Like, he's no longer the main villain. It's the brother / husband, the brother / real husband of the
sexy lady from the wrong side of the tracks.
Yeah, the dame from the other side of the tracks, and yeah, they're, I don't know, like it's not as much fun as
it stinks
as the stepfather. And then like the whole when they take over the house and they do the home invasion, and they everything that's going on from that point forward, like it's just so convoluted, where it's sort of like, okay, we're going to kill him at 2:00 because that's the time that when people rob a house, that's like the time that robber's going to kill somebody, and we got to keep him alive till 2, and it's just like these random rules that they're abiding by. And then the fact that like
okay, listen, I would say that this movie kind of stinks, but there are, like, it is a Michael Winner movie, and because it's a Michael Winner movie, there are things in it that make it at least worth watching. Mm-hmm. Number one, all of the shameless nudity that's in the film, and the shameless sex, and also like scenes like when she goes to like talk to her mom, and the guy's fucking her mom, and then she just goes into her room and she's like starts crying, and she has to listen to her mom be like oh Donald, oh yeah, I love it how you fuck me, and then she's like covering her ears, and the music, like pretty good chuckle I got out of that one. How could you forget when Lolita Lore gets run over by the car after revealing that she's pregnant? Like, I mean, that's like that's Michael Winner right there, like doing something that audacious. And of course, when when the mom's in a wheelchair and the husband is like throwing her down the hallway in the wheelchair and her falling over out of the wheelchair and then putting her back in and then not like pushing her down the stairs in the wheelchair and her falling down. Like, stuff like that is just so fucking hilarious and like just so trashy. That trashiness. I mean, this is why we watch Michael Winner's movies, is because he's just kind of a trashy guy who doesn't really he doesn't even get it. Like he doesn't seem like he even understands like that's to him, this is just like natural. This is just kind of like, oh yeah, this is what you do in a movie. He doesn't even.
Well, this is what bad people do. They they push people down the stairs in a wheelchair.
Right. There's no. That's about as far as he thinks about it. He doesn't consider kind of like the. There's like a balance that needs to happen. I believe like with sort of like. What the crimes someone commits against someone else, and then the level of revenge or the level of comeuppance that they receive at the end of the film. Like he always front loads it. It's always like the people who are the innocent people always suffer way more, and then the bad guy at the end just like gets shot or something, and then he's dead, and that's it. Like he doesn't understand that. So his films tend to come off as being, or let me put it this way, as a director, he comes off as someone who really enjoys showing innocent people suffering, But I think it's more just
he also enjoys people being electrocuted, because remember, there's a big electrocution scene in Death Wish 2.
Yeah, where the guy gets thrown into the giant computer.
He throws the hippie into the computer, and his hair's just like, oh,
yeah. And his teeth.
And same thing happened to that woman when she was like fucking with the fuse box. Same thing happened.
Yeah, when she, and like their gums get all red and their faces get all black, and their eyes get bloodshot. It actually is tough to have a good, convincing electrocution in a movie. I don't think I've ever even seen like a really good electrocution, because it's like you always know it's just going to be some guy shaking his body around. Like it always just seems silly.
Whenever you see him on Instagram, you see just like it's just a spark, like a
yeah,
and then the person just completely just keels over.
Yeah,
like there's no like
yeah. There's no like when they keel over, it's just like their skeleton has been removed. Like there's just a flash, and then it's just like they fall down like a fucking wet paper towel. But you think about like electric, and then sometimes in movies they'll even add like optical effects or some sort of visual effect of like electrical arcs. You know what I mean? Like bzz, bzz, and it's like, this is not helping. This is not I understand that you're communicating electrocution to me with this, but it's not. It just makes it seem like it looks like fucking Big Trouble in Little China powers or something. It doesn't look like I don't know. You gotta Hollywood never really figured out electrocution. Anyways, all I'm trying to say here is that like if you're out there and you're a filmmaker and and you're writing a script, I would just say, avoid having anyone get electrocuted, because it never reads. Like, it never ever reads. Maybe like, I don't know. Maybe there's one out there that's good, that's an exception to the rule, but it almost never ever works. Which one?
Shocker.
Oh, Shocker. Yeah, I mean, all everything in Shocker doesn't work either. As far as I'm concerned. Like I mean, I love Shocker.
Powder. What about Powder?
Powder's the one. Powder's the one where it works. That's the one. We found it, everybody.
Okay,
problem
solved.
Right. Overall, like, I mean, if we're going to eggplants right now, I'm gonna give like Scream for Help like a 1.5, because it just doesn't. It's just not a satisfying film by any stretch of the imagination, but it does have like a couple really great Michael Winner moments.
Yeah, I'd probably give it 2 eggplants.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So now we're moving on to like a movie that I think is better. And it's also from the same year, 1984, and it's a movie called Firstborn, which was Corey Haim's very first appearance. And it stars Peter Weller, and it was directed by a fellow named Michael Apted, and that's it.
It's got a pretty stellar cast because it's got Corey Haim, Peter Weller, Terry Garr, Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr. is in it as well, yeah.
And the Sex and the City lady, Sarah Jessica Parker, right?
No, she's not in this.
Yes, she is.
Sarah Jessica Parker is in...
She's the girlfriend.
The girlfriend?
Remember the kid has a girlfriend?
Is that her? There's no way. You're right, it is her. Holy shit. I didn't recognize her at all. I'm getting tissed right now. I didn't recognize Sarah Jessica Parker. Did you ever watch Sex and the City?
I've probably seen an episode or two.
Okay. I don't think I've ever seen a single episode, but I know who they are.
I used to watch Square Pegs when I was in high school.
You used to get pegged when you were in high school.
I still do.
Yeah, so fucking Firstborn. Really, like, have you seen the poster for Firstborn? It's just a picture of like the.
Isn't he's like kind of like got his? He's like between first and born, and he's got his arms over the first and born, like he's all cool and shit. Yeah,
it's like, I mean, it doesn't tell you at all what this movie's about, you know. But
right.
It's completely just like a really failure of an advertisement. It kind of reminds me of like the Teen Wolf poster, like even like just sort of the vibe of it. I think maybe it has to do with like the letter treatment. It's like a gradient from like dark to like light blue to white, going from down to going from bottom to top, and then outlined in white. It kind of gives like it's almost like a RoboCop sort of treatment of the letters. So it makes it feel like it's like a Flight of the Navigator sort of movie. Like there's maybe a science fiction element to it. It's a weird poster. Yeah, if you look at the poster and like I don't know, I look at that poster and
I mean I have it in my head, but
okay. Terry Garr, Peter Weller, fucking Christopher Collett, who I guess he was in the Manhattan Project. That's the only thing I can think of that he's been in. He's probably the one who didn't really go on to have much of a career. Corey Haim went on to have quite a lot of success with having sex with men against his will. Peter Weller, of course, we know.
What a success story!
You know, there's a part in Firstborn. See, here's the thing. Like, what makes the movie like work so well is how it's entirely about the performance and about how realistic this family is portrayed.
Right.
Like, and it pretty much maintains this the whole way through, you know.
But not only how the family is portrayed, but how Peter Weller, the guy that is dating their mother, Terry Garr, how he is portrayed. Like, he's not just like Terry O'Quinn in The Stepfather. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that it's bad what happens in The Stepfather. That's a great movie as well. Mm-hmm. But I feel like Peter Weller is a very fleshed out person. He's not just this one note bad. I'm just the bad stepfather coming in and fucking with the family. Yeah. He sort of takes you, like, as through the course of the movie, he kind of takes you through the sort of development of his character, where he starts off, he seems like it's a little weird the way he kind of shows up on the scene and the kids are a little put off by him, but then he kind of wins them over, and you see like he's a little maybe down and out, but he seems like he's a decent guy. Doesn't seem like he's all bad. Right. You know, he's trying. Well, hold on. Like,
what's interesting about how this works in terms of like the movie working is like it's important. It's important for like for Peter Weller to win the kids over, but more importantly, he needs to kind of like win the audience over.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's like he could win the kids over, but we still don't trust him, you know? But he actually wins us over too. And the way that it happens, I was going to mention this before, is that he goes down, there's that scene where he goes downstairs and he's kind of like, you know, I guess he's spent the night with the mom, and he comes downstairs and he's kind of like talking with them, and he's like, so, you know, what's your name? And then Corey Haim goes, Adolf, and and then Peter Weller kind of like looks at him and kind of smiles, like, and that moment I think is like the that moment is like the endearing moment to the audience, where you're kind of like, he's like, you know, this kid's kind of like a little shit disturber, but he likes it. Like he appreciates
it.
He appreciates this kid's sort of what's that word?
Sassy.
Yeah, so he's a sassy kid. Also, another thing too is that like whenever I have to like give a name at like Starbucks or whatever, I always say Adolf as well. So like that hit particularly directly with me. I was just like, oh, okay, the kind of humor going on here is something I can get behind. And then you know, as we move forward, you know, he's cooking in the backyard and he's teaching them how to fucking cook with mesquite or whatever, and just it's not so much what he's doing, but how he's relating to them and how he's talking with them.
Well, he's making an effort, and you know, like the moment when they're playing catch and he runs out there and he starts playing catch with them while he's barbecuing at the same time, and then he gets the older kid a motorcycle and he's talking about getting a 3-wheeler thing for Corey Haim. So he seems like he wants these kids to like him.
There's a funny thing. There's a funny thing about that the dirt bike that he buys for the older kid is that there's a line where he says, "Yeah, your mom paid for it, but I'm the one who convinced her to get it." You know,
right? And
I was thought it's so funny because it's like, you know, come on, buy, like, I need to get these kids out of my fucking hair, you know, like, can you please spend your money to buy a dirt bike so that,
but also like, and that's great too, because like they really sort of portray, like Terry Garr is so like just set up for this type of person to come into her life and completely, like they establish that, you know, her husband, the father of the two kids, they're divorced, but she's still feeling that loss pretty hard. Yeah. Like she's still not over it. And so when he shows up to kind of talk to the kids and have dinner with the kids, and revealing to the kids that like, Daddy's getting married and he's moving away to I can't remember where, and
Montreal.
He's moving to Montreal, and I'm just a phone call away, and like so like you really sort of establishing like this guy's like out, like he's gone, and Terry Garr's still kind of pining over him. Like there's still this, I think, at the beginning there's still this. She's still holding out hope that he's going to like come back around, and that's not going to happen. So she's totally primed for this type of guy to come into her life, and so when she is constantly like making excuses for him and always sort of picking him over the kids, like it just felt very real.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of experience with that.
I do.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Tell us about it.
Oh yeah. My when my parents got divorced, my mom was like, she dated some guys, and one guy, like this movie actually kind of was like giving me a little PTSD because it was just like she brought home a guy that like wound up like kidnapping her for a day, and
Oh my God.
and like we had to go to court, and it was like a whole thing.
Dude, that's wild.
Yeah, but what was really funny was like the funniest part of the story was my sister and I came home from school, and we were watching, we were watching TV, and we were having a fight. We were arguing, like she wanted to watch Inspector Gadget, I wanted to watch Voltron, and we were like literally like on the floor fighting it out.
Yeah.
And then we heard something like a clonk upstairs, and we both kind of stopped, and we were like, what was that? We both go upstairs and investigate and look around. We don't see anything. We don't know what's going on. And then I noticed that those locks that are they're in the doorknob.
Yeah.
So like the turn lock that's in the doorknob. So I noticed that had been taken off the bathroom door and put on the inside of my mother's bedroom door. And so I was like, who did that? Oh, it was probably that fucking idiot Tom. Fucking stupid asshole. He's so stupid. He's a fucking piece of shit. Fuck him. We were just going off on him. He's hiding in the closet.
Oh my God.
He was hiding in the closet. We didn't know that then. So my sister and I were like, all right, there's nobody here. Let's just go back downstairs. And we just went back downstairs and did our thing. And then later on, I think I kind of passed out for a little while. And when I came to, like, my mother was back home and she was in her bedroom. I could hear her talking with Tom. And so I just assumed that he had come a little later or something, and I had just slept through when he showed up. And then she came into my room. She's like, oh, I have to take Tom back home. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I mean, I was a latchkey kid, so I was used to her kind of coming and going.
Yeah.
And then, and so, I just did my normal things. I did my homework. I went to bed later. And then when I woke up and I was getting ready to go to school, and I went downstairs and I was eating breakfast, and my mom came downstairs again, and she was there with Tom. And I was like, well, I thought you took him home. And it's like, oh, I'm taking him home now or whatever. And so then she left. And that day, I guess he had sort of like kidnapped her with a flare gun and like forced her to like drive all over like the South Shore, like to all these like places, like pick up money or whatever. And
he was a full on like scumbag, into with gambling debts and stuff, and like selling drugs.
And I don't know. I have no idea. And then when we came back home from school that day, the cops were at our house, and we were like, "What the hell's going on?" So this movie kind of like was like really it really resonates with me.
Yeah, that's fucking
like
crazy.
I lived that scenario of like the young mom dating dangerous men.
Well, you're Corey Haim.
Yeah, a little bit.
Is your sister older or younger than you?
Older.
Okay, so you are Corey Haim.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, my parents got divorced when I was like in my 20s, so I was actually like across the country in college when that was all happening, and
right.
So like it all, and it sucks because like, well, no, I mean it's probably, well, it sucks. The way it sucks is that it's very unusual. Because there's not really a lot of media, like any TV show where there's like divorce happening. It's always kids. It's always like, kids who are like around like 12, give or take. But there's not really anything about like your parents getting divorced when you're already an adult, And it's so it's kind of like, I don't know, like, because you're still feeling kind of the same kind of like things, like you're still like bummed out about it, and like you're and you're still thinking like you still have sort of this hope that maybe it can be fixed and stuff, because you want your parents to stay together, just for the sense of home, let's say, or the sense of kind of safety.
Right.
Like my, at least I know that somewhere in the world there's like a place where, I can always go back to, kind of thing, and that's sort of firm and strong, and not fucked up and weird and fractured, So like, yeah, it just kind of all happened while I was away, and it sucked because like I was trying to like concentrate on school and stuff, and I was just like, and there wasn't really sort of like that media touchstone for me to kind of like lock into and to kind of be like, oh, okay, like, this, sometimes it helps. Like sometimes it actually helps to like see a show or a movie where like someone's going through the same thing that you're going through, because then you're kind of like, okay.
So what about Happiness?
Yeah, that's such a come on, like that hardly is in that's hardly in the forefront. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, it's and if I think about kind of like the weird kind of people that show up in your life who are like dating your mom or your dad, you're dating your dad, they're so old at that point that it's just kind of, it's not kind of weird and criminal and dangerous. It's more just kind of like sad because it's just these old people, these people who are in their like late 50s or 60s and stuff. And
Right.
most of the time it's like my dad like fucking up everything. My dad is actually like the guy, like Peter, maybe not like Peter Weller, but just like the bad sort of negative dude who's like making some poor old lady's life hell, and then until she finally smartens up and figures out that she should probably leave him.
But at least, like, I feel like when you're older, it's sort of like all that is happening in it, like it's separate, like it's separate from you. Like when you're a kid, so when your parent is bringing somebody into the house, like it's like there now you can't go away. You don't have You don't have your own place to go to and your own family, or if you have a family or a girlfriend or whatever, you're stuck there.
Yeah, well, don't get me wrong. I think I got the long end of the stick on this one. Like I definitely, it was definitely a better situation. I was out of the house. I was like, I had my own life. I was living in like an apartment and stuff, and it was not only was it me being out of the house and being in school and stuff. It was also I went to school like far from where I grew up, so. It's not like I would see them like on the weekends or anything. Like I was completely out of it, and if I wanted to just remain out of it, I could. Like I could just not talk to anybody, or like, if they called me on the phone, I could just not pick up. So it was like, it was definitely better for me,
Right. Yeah. And then conversely, like, my mom eventually wound up dating a guy he was a nice guy, and eventually they got married. She got remarried. But as a kid, there's still this element of like, okay, now your mom's bringing this new person in, and this person is like, she's choosing this person over you, like all the time. Like this person is now, like even though you've been here all along, this new person coming in is like much more important than you are, and whatever they say is more important, and everything they want to do is more important, and that even that feels strange. I don't think that you can be You can be a fucking heart, like it's that movie Blue Angel, like it's you can be a fucking professor and be swept up by some floozy in a bar.
Yeah.
And like I don't think it doesn't matter how smart you are. Emotionally, like in the movie Firstborn, the mother doesn't come off as some kind of idiot. But she's just really lonely, and she really is is in a, she's a single mom of 2 kids. And, this is also the 80s too, where sort of like divorce is it's still got a stigma to it. It's not as breezy as it is now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it still has a slight stigma to it, but back in the 80s, it was just really, like it was like you contracted a fucking
STD.
AIDS.
Yeah.
And so she's in a very lonely and desperate situation. So, handsome Buckaroo Banzai shows up, and sure, he's a little quirky, but he seems to love her, and you put up with stuff. I mean, I feel like emotional stuff can be extremely confusing.
Sure, no doubt. There's some interesting things with Peter Weller's character. The first being, he's like, there's a part where like he gets angry at Corey Haim for like fighting in school, and he takes off his belt and he's about to beat up Corey Haim, and the other kid, what's his face, Christopher Collette, goes and tries to fight him, tries to like fight him off. He's only like whatever, 16 or something, 15, I think. And so right. Peter Weller overpowers him, and he's got him against the wall, and he has his fist cocked. But he stops himself, there's still it's not like he's not like the guy in Scream for Help. Like there's humanity still in him. And like, this
right.
is what makes the movie so great, is that it feels like real people all the way across the board.
Like, that's what I was saying. Like, Peter Weller doesn't come off as, the stepfather in Scream for Help or Terry O'Quinn in The Stepfather. Like, he seems very well rounded. He seems like a human being. Like that
right.
scene where they're out at dinner and Peter Weller's like, this steak tastes like shit. I'm going to open up my own restaurant. It's going to be better. It's going to be great. Right. And then the kid, the teenager, what's the teenage kid's name? What's his name in the movie?
Jake.
So Jake is kind of like, he's just sort of like, oh yeah, come on, no way. Like he's shitting on this guy's dreams, and Peter Weller just suddenly like snaps, and he's just like, what? What are you so negative? You're kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
And part of me was kind of like, yeah, he is a little bit of an asshole. Like this guy's got this, like he's got a dream to start a restaurant. Why do you got to shit on it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's not like he's like at that point he's not like slapping his mom around yet.
Right. Well, this is I guess what I mean. Like it's not just, for me, it's not just about how the character behaves within the context of the film, but also kind of like the cues that are given to the audience. Like when he cocks his fist back and he's about to hit the kid Jake, and then he stops himself, and then he lets the kid go, and then the camera stays trained on him, and he has this look on his face like what the fuck's the matter with me, and it endears you to him. Like the audience is kind of like, this guy feels bad about what he did. There's still something in there.
Right.
It's thoughtful, and it's something that like, it's just taking those extra seconds of keeping the camera on him to give a little bit of goodwill towards the audience, like in relation to him, and this kind of stuff. I pay attention to it because this is. I say this all the time. I say, what is a film other than just like this long, complex series of emotional and psychological manipulations in order to make you feel stuff, right? And like,
right.
and being able to kind of navigate and orchestrate that is kind of, I don't know, what makes like a good director, what separates a good director from like a shitty one. Then ultimately, like you have the cocaine to sort of allow him to go over the edge. Like that cocaine is sort of the the plot device that can be used to turn him evil, you know, like, oh, he's going to beat up, and also just sort of the pressure of, he's on cocaine, and also there's this pressure from whatever, loan sharks or like, you know, higher up drug dealers that's causing him to actually like, you know, have a full-on blowout and like beat the hell out of the kid and smack the wife and throw Coraham across the room and you know, the big blowout that happens at the very end.
But he also sees cocaine as this sort of savior, like it's going to, like selling this cocaine is going to get him that, like help him achieve that dream of getting the restaurant. Right.
I don't know. I feel like the restaurant is a lie to get the woman to give him money to buy cocaine. I feel like cocaine is the real savior. It's just what cocaine means is that he can triple his money, not that he can sell it so that he can go and buy a house and then fix up a house and then sell it and then
he feels kind of arrogant and dopey enough that he would be the type of guy that'd be like, oh no, well, I'm a great chef. I can out chef anybody. I'm gonna fucking do it. Like he seems like he comes off as that he's got that kind of arrogance in him.
Yeah.
So I believe his restaurant pipe dream.
Sure. I mean, like I think that you hit the nail on the head when you say like he's dopey. He's stupid. Like the we're not dealing with an evil guy here. We're dealing with just a stupid guy. And
right.
And that really is like
what's his line? He's got a great line on they're snorting coke off the pinball machine, and then Jake catches them snorting coke, and they look up and they see Jake looking at them snorting coke, and Jake walks away, and then Peter Weller has like a line that he says to like that's life, or he says something to Terry Garr. I can't remember what it was, but it's
oh geez. Well, I don't know.
It was a good line. Like it's kind of like well, he's got to fucking. He's got to face the real world sometime. It was like something along those lines.
Right. Yeah. Well, fuck. That's a shame. If you're out there listening to this podcast, you can go watch Firstborn, and there's a good line in there where he's snorting cocaine off the pinball machine.
And also just the fact that he brings in the pinball machine, like that's another sort of like try to get the kids to like you.
Yeah. Exactly. Pinball. You know. I guess in 1984, that's still something that will.
It was very rare to find somebody to have a pinball machine in their living room in the 80s.
That's true. Okay, yeah. So another thing that I will also say just to give credit where credit's due to the production of Firstborn, great pains were obviously taken, and this is something I've never read a single review of Firstborn, but I'm sure that any kind of comprehensive review of Firstborn will mention how like the production design of the house changes like over the course of the film, where it's like everything's all neat and tidy and nice in the beginning, and then like as time goes on, the mom's not preparing the food herself anymore. She's buying like, so there's cartons of fucking Chinese food, fucking buckets of like KFC. And the dishes are out everywhere, and like the house gets messier over time. So like, I mean, that's definitely like, something that the production spent a lot of time kind of like, putting because they knew that people would be looking for that. Like that's something that people are going to kind of instantly pick up on and comment on when they watch the film, is just sort of how like the home itself deteriorates. So like all I'm saying is that if anyone out there is still alive who worked on Firstborn and you happen to be listening to this podcast, we noticed. Congratulations.
We noticed. Okay, so we've been kissing Firstborn's ass, but now I'm going to give it my big criticism. The fight at the end did not feel very satisfying to me.
Yeah, you're right.
The sort of showdown between Jake and Peter Weller, they're this is like the big moment where the big conflict, or it's happening, and they're fighting and throwing each other around, and Peter Weller is just about to bash Jake's head in with a baseball bat, and then Jake kicks him in the balls.
That's right.
And he kicks him in the balls twice.
It's twice.
And then Peter Weller falls, and then he gives him a couple kicks that looked pretty pulled.
Yeah.
Like a couple of pulled kicks, and then Peter Weller feels completely defeated, and he leaves. He finally leaves the house.
I'm just going to say too that like that's another thing, along with sort of the vague subject matter, the year of release. Another thing that Firstborn shares in common with Scream for Help is a lot of really, really bad like pulled kicks that are entirely unconvincing. I'm sorry to cut you off for that, but it had to be said.
And so, yeah, I was feeling like this did not feel satisfying. Like I don't know what they should have done instead. If they had killed him and the family like united, buried him in the backyard quietly, and nobody ever asked for him again.
The Prince of Tides ending.
Just like something a little bit more drastic. I don't know what, but
they electrocute him.
Yeah, he gets his hand stuck in the pinball machine and he gets electrocuted.
Oh,
his hair
dude,
goes
that's it. Just that slow motion shot of him falling back first into the pinball machine. Just like, is that Peter Yeller?
Yeah.
That's awesome. You know what? Hold on. Let's just do a little bit of a thought experiment. If that actually happened in the movie and it was like, like full on like 80s like optical electricity effects and everything, and like smoke and an explosion, do you think that you would have appreciated that, or you would have been like, oh,
I would have loved it.
Yeah,
I would have loved it.
I think me too.
Because just him just skulking out and getting in his truck and driving off, and then sort of the family hugging and feeling like, well, we got through that. It just felt very, very weak.
Yeah. Like what's going to happen? Like, literally 2 hours from then. Like not even
when Peter Weller comes back and like burns their house down.
Exactly. He's still out there. And I mean, there was no resolution to like what they were going to do about the.
It'd be funny if the Firstborn 2. He's like Bobby Flay. He's like the most famous chef in the world. And Jake is just like now he's the bum who's hooked on cocaine. It turns out that the fucking Peter Weller was right the whole time. And then Peter Weller has a daughter, and she's dating Jake, who's like he's a dirtbag, and she has to like convince him to dump him.
Yeah. then I'd be getting PTSD. Fuck.
And then the ending was a little tepid. Also, I mentioned to you this before. This it was a scene that always stuck with me when the coach is just giving these random hygiene
wash your balls
lessons about how to dry yourself after a shower so as not to get athlete's foot and like such a bad case of athlete's foot that you lose one of your testicles.
Right. Yeah. That's what you call comic relief.
Because it's not like that it plays out in the film, and it's not like the kid is like, I'm going to give Peter Weller athlete's foot, and then like I'm going to give him my athlete's foot towel, and he'll rub his face with it.
He'll rub his balls on
athlete's face.
Yeah. That would be that would be funny if that plot point came back to like save him at the very end.
Like he just kind of like you see him looking at his athlete's foot towel, and he's just like,
Yeah.
I can use it. This is the ultimate weapon.
Yeah. Like, oh man, I've been fucking drawing my balls with this for the last fucking 2 weeks. But yeah, you fell right into my clutches, Peter Weller. Your balls fell right into my clutches.
My athlete's clutches.
Yeah. So so that's great. Firstborn, pretty fucking pretty okay movie. It's too bad that it right at the fucking 11th hour kind of drops the ball with an unconvincing ending. I mean, basically the equivalent of like, I saw a movie called Those Who Wish Me Dead a little while ago, like 2 days ago. It's like a 2021 movie about like some fucking alphabet agency chasing after some kid who witnessed a murder, like a politically motivated murder of some sort. I wasn't really paying attention for the beginning, but anyways, like, do you remember the guy from that Irish actor who plays the mayor in The Wire? Like
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So it's that guy, and he plays sort of like this FBI sort of tough guy, kind of like almost like special force. Like he's an FBI guy. He's wearing a suit, but he's like a combat kind of guy, and he's a bad guy. And then you got like this other guy who's like a younger guy who's going along with him, and they're chasing after this kid. And Angelina Jolie is in this movie, and she plays like a forest fire preventing lady or something, and so it all takes place in this forest. Blah blah blah, all this shit. There's some scenes with that fucking Irish guy that are so fucking cool. Like just because he's like a guy who this is not his first rodeo. He's extremely experienced with like dealing with people, like someone. There's a part where someone picks up the phone. He's like, call your husband right now and tell him to come back here. And if I see you mentioning anything about me or doing anything weird, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And you're pregnant, so you're not gonna be a mother anymore and whatever. So then she picks up the phone and she starts talking about like, do you have the boy still? Oh, he must be hungry. And the guy immediately recognizes it as like a distress word. Like hungry is their distress word. So he beats her. Anyway, the point is that this guy is just like, he's a great villain and you can't really get anything by him. He's super like logical in his sort of methodology. I really enjoyed this character a lot, is all I'm trying to say. But then at the very end, he ends up getting killed, and the way he gets killed is justified. Like it's not unrealistic. But then the younger guy ends up going after Angelina Jolie, and her and a fucking 11-year-old boy managed to beat up an armed, like with a fucking automatic fucking rifle. He's going after them in the woods, and she manages to kill this guy with a fucking axe, and that's it. And then there's a little 11-year-old boy, and it's so disappointing that this is how the movie ends, because it's like that is absolutely unrealistic that it could possibly end that way. Like, I mean, Angelina Jolie gets her ass beaten so badly, like repeatedly, as this FBI guy is trying to sort of make a point, like get the fuck out here, little boy, or I'm gonna keep making her suffer. And he just beats her in the face like fucking 12 or 15 times, like big punches from a man on Angelina's fucking bird-like face, you know what I mean? And she comes out of it just with like a little cut on her nose and like some rings around her eyes. Meanwhile, she would, I've seen, female UFC fights where someone gets fucking beaten up really badly by another woman and their head looks like a fucking oblong cantaloupe,
Right.
All this to say, the movie had all of my support up until sort of just this extremely unrealistic ending. And it sucks because like, all you got to do is just make it, all you got to do is just make it realistic. And you can still have them win, but you have to figure out how to make it feel, and you just have to figure out how to make it feel like logical or realistic. So yeah, that's my mini review of a movie called Those Who Wish Me Dead.
Mm-hmm.
As it relates to Firstborn. What are we giving Firstborn for fucking eggplants?
I'd give it maybe 3.5 stars.
I'm with you. Eggplants.
I would have if the ending was better.
Yeah.
I would have given it 4. But yeah, because they didn't land that ending.
Yeah. It matters.
It matters. But the journey there, everything before that is just really, it's just good. It's really good.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I say 3.5.
And I didn't see this movie since, like, they used to show it on probably HBO all the time when I was a kid, so I probably saw it in like 85. And I liked it then, and I still like it. It's still good.
Yeah. Yep. It's a good movie. It's a definite recommend.
And Peter Weller, like, he really was on a he was really cruising. He had like Firstborn, Buckaroo Banzai,
Of unknown origin.
Just like cranking out the hits, and then RoboCop, just like put him over the top.
In '89, he had Leviathan. That was probably maybe towards a little bit of a down.
Yeah, I think that's when things started to go down.
Downhill kind of trajectory. But yeah, we talked a little bit about The Stepfather. We might as well just like talk a little bit more about it, because we're not gonna do it again. Although this episode has been going on for quite some time now.
Okay.
Neither of us needs to watch The Stepfather in order to fucking remember it, because I'm sure it's very, very fresh in our minds, just because we've probably watched it so many times. I know that you're a big fan of it.
I've seen it a few times, yeah. And the second one's pretty good too. 1 and 2 are worth seeing.
Yeah, I think even the third one is worth seeing, although it's a huge decline from the
Well, it
second
doesn't
one.
have Terry O'Quinn in it, so that, and whoever, I don't even remember the name of the guy that is replacing him, but he's not even he's not even like in the same league as.
Yeah, but it still has like good sort of violence, like good sort of suspense stuff. You know what? I'm not going to sit here and fucking defend The Stepfather 3. It's it's not a good movie. It's not a good movie. It's not nearly as good as part 1 and 2. That goes without saying. But I do think you could go a lot worse. You could do a lot worse than The Stepfather 3 for just like a fucking horror movie about a killer man.
Killer Man.
Killer
Pretty good
Man.
name for a movie.
Killer Man, that's good. Yeah, I mean, what's good about The Stepfather? Everyone always is going to talk about how that scene in the beginning where he comes down the stairs after he cuts off his beard and puts contacts in his eyes. He comes down the stairs and he's murdered like the family, and you see like the remnants of like a little girl you sort of catch a glimpse of, like all bloodied and mutilated all over the living room floor. And he leaves the fucking house, closes the door, locks it, and then just walks down the street, whistling Camptown Races as he does. And it gives you this sort of like eerie kind of feeling of like what's going on behind the doors of all the houses on the street of my neighborhood. What kind of crazy fucking shit's going on. Like it really kind of obviously that's kind of the intention of that scene, to kind of just make you kind of think, what are your neighbors doing, so I mean that hooks you right away. Then I mean, what is there to say about The Stepfather other than just like great fucking performance from Terry O'Quinn. Also, I'd say too, like very like interesting character and good performance from Jill Sholin. Is that her name? Sholin? Or Shololin?
I don't remember. You mean the daughter?
Yeah, the dark-haired daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, sounds good.
I think she's cool. We're going to call her Jill Sholin. But she's kind of like a delinquent. There's a part where she's like getting into a fight at school, and she rubs fucking paint on the teacher's jacket and shit, and shows that she's like just a bad kind of like a kid who just can't seem to get along in school. She wants her mother to send her to boarding school to get away from this fucking creepy stepfather who although everybody else seems to kind of, accept this guy and like this guy, including her mother, she just doesn't. She just doesn't buy it.
But he does sort of portray himself as the most perfect guy. Like he's not Peter Weller. He's very, very straight-laced. He's got a job. He wears a suit and tie. Like he's as normal can get.
Yeah.
And in fact, like he's so perfect and normal. It's like when the family or someone in the family is behaving in a way that is less than perfect, that he starts to crack.
Right. I mean, he's. I wouldn't say he's normal. I mean, he acts like a dad from Leave It to Beaver. Like that's his whole.
Well, it's
thing.
like hyper normal, I guess. Like not
right.
Like normal in yeah. He's sort of like he's very like this like perfect, uber perfect dad role,
right.
and like this is what a family does. This is how a family behaves. These are the ingredients of a perfect family. This is what I do. This is what mom does. This is what the kids do. And if somebody breaks or doesn't align themselves with that, then that's when he starts getting stabby.
Yeah, or Hitty with a 2x4 in my favorite scene where he goes after the girl's psychologist, and while they're kind of touring a house that this guy has sort of set up a meeting for him to look at to buy, he ends up beating him to death with a piece of 2x4.
Oh right, I forgot about that.
it's. I mean, you have it in that drawing you made. You have him that scene of him beating that guy with that fucking stick.
Right.
Really, really, really great scene. Like just very violent and brutal, and it kind of comes out of nowhere because it's the first.
He's very matter of fact in the way that he kills. Like he's not like a somebody who's he's not Art the Clown getting pleasure from ripping somebody's scalp off and stabbing them in the penis. Like I have to defend my. In his mind, he's like, I have to defend my family, and if this person is going to upset that, or maybe this person has some information about like what my real identity is, well, that's going to ruin my situation and my family, so they have to be eliminated.
Yep, very, very results oriented killer.
And that's what also like makes him so like such a great character, like a great villain.
Yeah,
like he's just like there's no like he's trying to get revenge, or like he like he gets upset when kids are having sex. Like he's just kind of like I want a great family, I want a good family, and they have to behave in the way that I want them to. And if they don't, then I kill them and I go on to the next family. Right.
There's like a little scene where something. I think it's like he's talking with the wife, and the wife goes like, what were things like when you were a kid? And he's like, oh well, I had a pretty strict upbringing. And then he kind of his eyes kind of like get intense, and he's like, to say the least, and then that's about that's about all we get about the sort of the history of the stepfather, like he apparently he was just it leaves you to infer that he suffered just unimaginable abuse, and that's I guess why he's like this or whatever. But in a to the movie's credit, they don't ever really get into that, and just sort of
if that movie was made today, they would have the stepfather going back to confront his abusive parents,
right? Or there would be flashbacks of some sort, something like this. But they don't. They just have this, and What's also very cool about the stepfather is he doesn't actually have an identity. Like, 'cause here's the thing about the stepfather that people often talk about as being a weakness, is that there's the brother of the prior wife.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And he's going after, and he's kind of working with the cops, and he's trying to get the picture in the paper, and this and that and the other thing, and then eventually, we find out that this, we find out who this guy is, and it turns out that like he's only these aliases. Like they actually can't find out who he really is. So there's this kind of interesting kind of like hollowness to the stepfather. Like he's just kind of this guy who isn't anyone. I like that for me is like really cool and kind of like, kind of chilling, let's say.
That kind of I feel like adds to his creepiness.
Sure. And then, and this is a criticism. Well, this is not a criticism, but the whole sort of B plot of this brother kind of trying to sleuth out this fucking stepfather character is regarded as a weakness by some people because it doesn't actually resolve in anything. Like as soon as they come face to face, the stepfather immediately manages to stab him and he dies. So and I believe that the director of this film, the stepfather. Let me just find out who the director is so I can at least say the guy's name. Nelson McCormick. Oh no, Nelson McCormick is who did the fucking remake. It's actually Joseph Rubin. Mm-hmm. Don't you love Joseph Rubin films? I love that. That's my favorite director, Joseph Rubin. I don't know who. Mm-hmm. I don't really know any of his films. Oh, he did The Good Son. Good Son's not a bad movie.
That's all right.
Yeah. But anyway,
I'm noticing a pattern of evil family members.
Yeah. I think that this fella, Mr. Joseph Rubin, probably was thinking about it as like the Scatman Crothers in The Shining kind of thing, where you're providing
hope. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, you're providing hope, and then you're just pulling the rug out from under people. It's so funny how it's like it's so obvious that that's what is going on, but then fucking stupid critics and stupid kind of like audience members will take it as if it's a mistake, and it's like no, but it didn't amount to anything, and it's like yeah, that's the point. That's the whole point of the whole thing, I don't regard that as being a weakness at all. I just regard you as
I don't see how it doesn't amount to anything. It just amounts to showing that what this character is willing to do to keep his secret.
Yeah, and it also shows, it's sort of in a broader sense, it's sort of just a cynical kind of perspective of like, you can have the best intentions in mind and you can care as much as you want about something, but that doesn't mean you're going to get it,
Right.
So that's pretty good. Can you still hear me?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. One of my earphones just failed. But anyways, yeah. So the stepfather is pretty cool. Is there anything else? I mean, like just key scenes, like the scenes where he's fucking in the wood shop, and the daughter catches him being weird. Like that's sort of like a cool key scene.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Another one is
he's like talking to himself.
Yeah. He's just saying like he's talking to himself like how we all talk to ourselves like in the shower, when we're getting more angry about something, which is relatable. And then there's also like the scene where he, the classic like who am I here scene where he doesn't know where he doesn't know who he is, talking with his wife, where his wife's kind of busting his balls about like, hey, how come I called the office and they say you haven't worked there for like 3 months or whatever. And he's like, oh, my name's Hodgson's or whatever, Hodgkins. He's like, what are you talking about? I thought your name was like Jerry Blake or whatever his fucking name is in the movie. And then he hits her so fucking hard with the phone in that scene. It's unforgettable. Like it's such just a vicious just smack with the receiver of that phone. I always love that. It's just that's the thing about this movie is that some of the violence is like just really wild. It's really
does he get like he gets like a scissors in his chest? Like isn't he stabbed in the scissors in this one, or is that the second one.
No, he gets stabbed with either a knife or scissors. He's stabbed to death. Like, he survives apparently for the next one.
Not to death.
Right. It should have been to death, but they I guess they made a fair amount of money with the Stepfather, so
right.
they went on to the next one. But he's stabbed.
Fortunately.
And the fight in this one does seem realistic,
Right.
It doesn't it's close, but it doesn't seem like, it's two women going up against a man, and but for some reason it manages, just kind of, I guess maybe just the stairs, like the higher ground advantage, element of surprise, whatever it is, it doesn't feel goofy. It doesn't feel like Angelina Jolie taking on a special forces guy with a little boy and the special forces guy is armed with a fucking automatic machine gun that has got a full clip in it. Yeah. So yeah, Stepfather.
I give 4 eggplants, Stepfather.
Yeah, absolutely. Stepfather is a tried and true, reliable film. I give it 4 as well. Well, that's great. We finished our divorce episode.
So bleak.
So bleak. There's nothing more bleak than a good divorce.
I guess the Scream for Help was the biggest letdown, but it's still, everything was worth seeing.
Yeah, even you gotta make the point that even something that gets like a 1.5 or a 2, still can be something that's worth recommending. Because there's still enough. There's still enough in it that's worth kind of seeing. And it may not work as a movie as a whole, but there's still some little glimmers of stuff. Because that's the thing too, is the Scream for Help has shit in it that you're not going to see in anything else. Right. Especially not from this time, from the current contemporary films. So it's nice to go back and to kind of see some shit that otherwise wouldn't be on your TV. I'm going to cut that part out.